Welcome to Hubbard Helps, a program that spotlights the people and organizations making a difference in Chicago. Now here's your host, Kara Hernandez.
Good morning. Thanks for joining us. The Lost Enzyme Project is dedicated to funding the development of a new life-saving treatment and supporting those affected by beta-amyloidosis. They aim to deliver treatment that crosses the brain-blood barrier, targeting the brain and body effectively. With us this morning to talk more about the Lost Enzyme Project and the work they are doing for people living with beta-amyloidosis is Laurel Greger, the co-founder of the organization. Laurel, thank you so much for joining us this morning.
Thank you for having me.
What do you want listeners to understand about beta-amyloidosis? Can you share some symptoms, facts, or misconceptions that listeners may not know?
So beta-amyloidosis is an ultra-rare progressive metabolic disorder. It's one in about 50 of lysosomal storage disorders. And up until now, there really hasn't been very much research on this disorder. The symptoms really vary. So, you might see someone's diagnosed with beta-amyloidosis that has some mild hearing loss and maybe some learning disability, all the way up to someone who is having seizures, white matter changes on their brain, swallowing issues, mobility issues, bone deformities. So it kind of really runs the gamut. And I think what's so difficult is that this is ultra rare, right? But we're just not testing for it. And so it's not as rare as what the numbers are showing now. And we're just not testing for it because there isn't a lot of research done on this disorder. It's not talked about. Many providers have probably never heard about it. And, there might be a patient they're seeing that they kind of scratch their head and say there's some curious symptoms, but then there's not that next step of sending them to a geneticist to really see what's going on.
Yeah, I have to say, I had never heard of this before, so I'm very glad to learn a little bit more about this. And since I didn't know it, and a lot of listeners may not know, how did this Lost Enzyme Project get started, and how has it grown into what it is today?
So this is a personal question for me because I really see the start of the Lost Enzyme Project for me starting with my son, Oliver. So my son was diagnosed with beta-amyloidosis when he was 4, the day after Christmas in 2014. And at that time, he was the first person diagnosed in the United States. No one had ever seen this before. And so the doctors knew that it was a pretty serious presentation. Like we talked about, there's mild to severe. Oliver's more on the severe side. And so they recommended doing an experimental bone marrow transplant, which we did. I live in Montana, and we moved to Minnesota, and he had that done. And the hope was to stop or slow the progression, right? Because this is a progressive disease. I think it slowed the progression, but unfortunately it did not stop it. And Oliver has continued to progress. And after his transplant, I really wanted to get into advocacy. What more could I do to help? Because this disorder needs treatment, right? And we have the technology to create it. We just need to do it. And so I joined the board of the International Society for Amyloidosis and Related Diseases. And through that, I kind of had this platform to start looking for more patients. And that's exactly what happened. I first met the Hubbard family. Erin Hubbard called me, and we talked about her daughter, Skylar, who had just been diagnosed. And not too long after that, I met the Lamelin family, and Lorena had called me about her son, Dean, who had just been diagnosed. And really, the three of us moms started to say, we've got to do something more. Our kids need treatment. How do we do this? And Lorena works at the University of California, Irvine. And the physician who had diagnosed her son is an expert in rare diseases and has her own research lab. And she wanted to start researching beta-amyloidosis. And so we had that connection, and that was wonderful. And then I was headed down to a medical conference called World, and I was going to be meeting with JCR Pharmaceuticals. And I had the good luck of sitting next to the president of JCR Pharmaceuticals. And they are one of 2 companies in the whole world that has technology to get medicine to the brain. And that is so important for beta monocytosis because so much of the progression, it's coming from the brain. So we really need medicine that can get into the brain and clear out those toxic substrates from the brain. And so I had this wonderful conversation with him. He said, Laurel, I can't promise you that I can do anything, but I'm going to do my best. And so after that, I introduced him to Dr. Kimono from UCI, and JCR agreed to create beta monocytase, the enzyme that's lost in beta monocytosis, and create that so that Virginia could do preclinical studies. And so the Lost Enzyme Project really evolved to fund this research project, right? These preclinical studies that we have to be able to then ask the FDA to move into human trials. And so we're essentially three moms that have no background really in any of this. We sort of moved into, not only fundraising, but then disease advocacy, patient recruitment, trying to identify patients around the world. From really getting the Lost Enzyme Project started to where we are, we kind of moved a mountain, and we're still moving it.
According to your website, the lostenzymeproject.org, you serve patients, families, and caregivers. What are some of these different services the Lost Enzyme Project has, and what impacts have they made?
Right now, we are really trying to identify more patients, not just in the U.S., but in the whole world. And so through the Sanford University in North Dakota, we've set up a longitudinal study. And so our website can show families how to sign up for that study, because it's really important that we're tracking the disease and the symptoms. This is all research that really, really matters. And so we've got that study set up. It's totally accessible. The instructions are on the website. We're also really focused on research, getting new research published. And we're really part of this process of getting disease-specific treatment made. And we know that there's the technology to make treatment that will end suffering. If we can get treatment made, it will be the standard treatment for this disorder. We've set up our website. We also have some things on the website, some recommendations for resources. Really, our website is a hub for the beta monocytosis community.
So we've talked a lot about how you guys have grown, but what plans and goals do you have for the Lost Enzyme Project in the future?
We're almost through preclinical studies, and sort of the next big thing is getting a protocol for a natural history study and getting that underway. So that will be something really exciting that we hope to see happen in the near future. Beyond that, patient identification is an ongoing thing because there's strength in numbers. And when you're part of the rare community, the more numbers you have, it means the more opportunity you have for funding, the more opportunity you have for research, the more opportunity you have to have a seat at the table, especially with biotech companies, to say, hey, we need treatment and have treatment made because it can be profitable. Rare disease is just so challenging because not only are the symptoms often severe, there's often not funding, there's not people researching, there's not the resources that other diseases have. And so often it feels like a really lonely mountain. I would say our biggest goal is get treatment across the finish line, get it cleared through the FDA, human trials going, and ultimately have enough patients where we can keep making this drug.
What's the best way for those listening right now to help the Lost Enzyme Project, as well as help people living with beta monocytosis?
It needs to be diagnosed. And so if you're out there and you or a loved one or your child has a cluster of symptoms that has never really been explained, talk to your doctor about getting genetic testing done. I just think there needs to be a paradigm shift in medicine where we're not just treating symptoms, but we're actually finding out what's causing them, because there are windows to act in some of these rare diseases. So it's really important to have an accurate diagnosis. So beta-manocytosis specifically, and for the Lost Enzyme Project, we have primarily, made everything happen through grassroots fundraising. And so if you can donate to our cause, it matters because we're rare, so we don't have a lot of other opportunities. And it's been amazing because I think people understand the need. They get it. They see that we're in a really difficult situation. And so sometimes I'll tell people, leave your legacy. And the legacy by supporting us and donating to this cause is that there's going to be disease-specific treatment. And this will be the standard of care. So when a child is diagnosed with this horrible disorder, there doesn't have to be the conversation of, I'm sorry, there's nothing we can do. The conversation will be, there's treatment, and this is what it's going to look like. I wanted to give a shout out to Erin Hubbard because she has created the most wonderful media team, and they've created a wonderful website. You'll see we have a podcast called These Kids Can't Wait that I host with Erin Hubbard and Lorena. We've also got our Facebook page. If you could follow us, that would be amazing. If you want to learn more about us, please go to thelostenzymeproject.org. I'm not going to say that it's been easy, and with everything Oliver's going through right now, there are days that are really, really hard, but I have so much hope. And, if I can save a family from going through what we've been through, that would just be the greatest thing I could do, and of course get treatment for our kids because they just can't wait.
Thank you so much, Laurel. One, for all this information you've given me and the listeners today. I learned so much, but also thank you just kind of stepping up in both of advocacy, awareness, and for Oliver himself, just that you've garnered so much support and help for him, and now it's turning into help for everyone else in the world, people who may end up having a child with beta-manocytosis, someone who recently is diagnosed. There's just so many avenues that you've taken that are just only going to make things easier and better for people in the future, and I just thank you so much for taking those steps to do that.
No, thank you. It's really an honor. I'd love to thank everyone that's so involved in this, the whole Lost Enzyme Project team, the Hubbard family, the Lomlin family, the Fernandez family, my family. My brother-in-law is from Chicago, and so we have a lot of love for Chicago, and so I just wanted to give a shout-out to the Dargy family.
Our guest this morning was Laurel Greger, the co-founder of the Lost Enzyme Project. For more information or to contribute to their mission, visit thelostenzymeproject.org. That's our show this week. Thank you for listening. I'm Kara Hernandez. Hubbard Helps is powered by Hubbard Radio, making a difference in Chicago.